Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Stacy Walker Hall. Happy Friday to you as well. Thanks for joining us. Will you do me a favor? Invite somebody to share. I won't be long. Feel I have to do this though, but invite somebody to share, please. Good morning. Good morning. Um, Kimberly Allen, good morning. Kimberly, I am such a fan. I love the way you push, love the way you push through. Keep creating. You're definitely a creator, and I believe that you're sent to our world to make things better and help hurting people. So keep pushing, um, Kimberly. I, I and I want to say this to Kimberly. Um, I don't know. A couple of weeks ago, not trying to be super deep or anything, but I was praying for you and your family. And I looked at your husband. I'm like, I know this guy. Turns out your husband's baby brother, um, who passed some years ago, was my best friend in junior high school. Quentin Allen and I. That was my guy. He was my best friend, and I just connected the dots. So much love, more grace to you and your family, and praying for you all. Kimberly, the most gifted people go through the worst things. And I'm saying this to Kimberly, but if any of this you can identify with, I'm talking to you as well. The most gifted people go through the worst things. Life, contrary to how we believe or what we may think, life cannot be measured by your own intellect. You're not going to be able to understand everything. You won't be able to figure everything out. In addition to that, life is always going to keep you, it's going to keep some level of, you'll always be off balance in some area. And I know that's not positive confessions, but hear me out. You're going to always be off balance in some areas. It's the imbalance that causes us to level up in understanding, causes us to level up in prayer, causes us to level up in our faith. If there is no opposition, if there is no trouble, then there can be no trusting. No trouble, no trusting. No trouble, no trusting. No trouble, no trusting. No trouble, no trusting. What happens a lot of times, especially with gifted people, is that gifted people are eccentric. We are also extremists. We are also heart people. And we make decisions. And a lot of times, the decisions that we make long term, we look back and like, I should not have done that, or I should not have done this, or if I'd have done this. But it doesn't matter about the decisions that we made when it comes to the scope of God's plan. What God will allow you to do, He will allow you to choose, teach you in your choices, cause you to get wisdom, and then grace gives you a new opportunity to start the same thing again. And just, Kimberly, be encouraged. You and your family, you be encouraged. The others of you that are watching this morning, be encouraged. And that's kind of what I want to talk about um, briefly. There's a lot going through my mind. There's a lot I want to say, but I want to keep my words at a minimum this morning. Um, we plan to succeed in life. No one wakes up. No one wakes up and say, I'm going to fail today. We plan, we think, we study, and I want to challenge your learning ability, especially as it relates to God, especially when it comes to you understanding life. Uh, Time is linear. We know some stuff in time. We learn some stuff in time, but time is like it's like a vapor. Um, it's it's unreliable. You can't trust time. So think about this. So this world has been established for millions of years. For millions of years, this world has been established, and in this world, many people have they were born, they died. Many people have come through this world, and there's this cycle that never ceases to end. There's an ongoing cycle of life and death. You have people that are born, then you have people that die. And Kimberly, let me stop and say this: your boys are kings, and some of the worries of your heart that you've had over your sons, I just hear the Lord say, be at rest, be at peace. God has you, your family, and He has your boys. Be at peace. So this ongoing cycle of life that keeps evolving, that keeps changes, it only evolves in our eyes. It only changes in our eyes and in the scope of our understanding. When we look at life, when we look at God, when we look at the world, when we look at the universe, when we look at creation, we measure it based on the level of intellect that we have. We feel the things in this world because we're sensual creatures, but our feelings are altered based on what's going on in our head and in our heart. So you can walk into a situation and you're feeling some kind of way already, and that situation magnifies the feeling that is already there. But the feeling that you have in regards to a situation doesn't necessarily mean that the situation is good or bad. It's how you see it. It's your understanding. It's your mood. It's your focus in regards to it. We measure everything by the scope of our understanding. So when it comes to, for instance, the argument of this God, this unmoved mover, this omniscient, um, omnipresent, all knowing, this God. Everybody is measuring this God by the scope and the lens of their understanding. And in reality, He may be what you think, but there's also a chance He may not be what you've considered. Whether He is or He isn't, He's still much more than we could ever understand. So I don't know why this morning, but I want everybody to be careful in gaining your understanding. When we seek knowledge, we go to Google, books, YouTube, and we listen to scholars from different eras. We listen or learn languages from different times, and we engraft that into our understanding, and we begin to project who we are, how we believe, what we believe, based on what we've learned in this little thing called time. The danger of that is just because you read it doesn't mean it's true. Just because you studied it doesn't make it law. And what many of us do in our understanding, in our researching, in our learning, is we do this stuff. It conditions how we feel, what we know, and then we begin to question things that have come across our path in the past. I believe with all my heart when it comes to the God issue, I believe that He has written His name in our hearts. I don't believe we could pronounce His name with the human mouth. My research tells me that the name of God is so to be reverenced that when He revealed His name, it cannot be spoken with the human mouth. But I don't believe that I met God through the scope of my understanding. I believe I met God, and there was an arena of learning around me in my meeting of him that shaped my understanding in regards to who I met. So we can argue theology, psychology, philosophy. We can argue our various points. But when it comes to God, for me, you can't argue that because you haven't had my experiences. And the thing that I'm leading to, as I want to talk to you this morning just briefly about deposits and withdrawals, the thing that I'm really leaning towards is telling you that there is a God that has written his name, his law in your heart. There's an experience that he's giving you that supersedes anything that you will ever learn about him. Most of our learning comes through the commentary of different men. We get their conviction, we get how they see it, and we begin to shape our understanding. And the danger of that is when we allow the ideology or concepts of men to overshadow who he's revealed himself to be to us in the attic of our heart, in the basement of our soul. There is an experience that we have with this God, and this experience defines who he is to us. Now, his grace is so big, so vast, so strong that he allows us to create the God we want to serve based on our own understanding. So then, with that grace being extended to us to see through the lens or the scope of our understanding, he becomes whatever we believe he is, but who he is to me, he may not be to you. Maybe the scope of your understanding is not able to grasp that idea, that concept, that it may not be able to grab it. And as a result of that, you will be limited or you will outgrow my knowledge and understanding by your experiences. So I think we have to lean more on who he's revealed to us and use information as an opportunity. Use information as an opportunity to measure our growth, our walk, our understanding as it relates to who he is. I believe that God is love, not just because the Bible said. No, the Bible for me confirms it. My relationship with him didn't come through the Bible. My relationship with God came through him revealing himself to me. My understanding of his characteristics are often confirmed through the Bible. And I think you have to lean not to your own understanding, but lean towards what he has revealed to you. You got so many people talking about so many things. There is no God. There is no Jesus. There is no this. The Bible is the white man book. Well, we have history books that prove that is wrong. There is history that confirms that this God, this Jesus, this Lord, even if the names are wrong, the concept is true, revealed himself to men back in Africa before they even came to America. Why America, I believe, along with the Romans, polluted and tried to dilute certain segments of scripture to alter our understanding to benefit their control. I do believe that. But you can alter the knowledge, but you cannot alter my experience. And I really think that we need a shaking in our faith because we've absorbed so much understanding that we'll start to misunderstand who he's revealed himself to be to us. And I don't know where all that came from this morning because that wasn't on my mind, but I thought I needed to share it. But it kind of sets me up for what I want to talk about in terms of deposits and withdrawals. Before I go any further, let me thank you all for, listen, last night was the start of something great. I want to thank Miss Angel L. of Atlanta, Georgia, for joining us last night. And every week on Wednesdays, we will do win, Women Winning Wednesday or Winning Women Wednesday. I think it's Winning Women Wednesday. We would do that every week where we'll highlight a queen, who they are, what they're doing, and what it costs them to get where they are, to be of an encouragement to the rest of us. I believe women are underrated. I believe women go through so many things that a man would never understand. And as long as I have anything, no matter how big or small, where he takes me, I'm going to honor the queens of this earth. And if I'm there, know that you're there, and I'm creating and working on something to get you the opportunity as well. I think that's important. So last night it was awesome. It was awesome. And if you get an opportunity, go back to my page, look at last night. I promise you, there's two parts because the software and the communications with online cut us off. We had to come back, but it was a powerful show. And women like Angel L and women like some of you who have these things inside of you, and you're just lacking opportunity. You need to be encouraged and understand that it's going to get better. Your time is coming, your platform is coming. But just because you're waiting doesn't mean you've been forgotten, and God is going to create a way. He's going to make a way. If he has to use a man or develop a miracle, your gift will be heard, you will be seen, and what God is giving you will soar around the world. So you all be encouraged. Um, it was a really powerful show. Um, so I want to talk about deposits and withdrawals. Last night, immediately following um, the live, got some unfavorable news in regards to another family member um, who had transitioned. My uncle transitioned on Sunday. My aunt transitioned last night. They were married. They were together over 35 years, married 35 years. And it's just, you try to make sense of this stuff and you can't. And it's out of that mindset that I kind of wanted to talk to you all this morning. What do you do when your world is falling and it feels like you are failing? What do you do? Y'all can, and I'm going to say it like, you can talk about praying all you want, but you know that there are times when you pray. Soon as you get through praying, you feel worse than you did before you started praying. You've read your Bible, and as soon as you got through, you felt worse than you did when you picked it up. And it's almost as if we try to give solutions to spiritual issues, physical matters that we don't have the freaking answer for. We don't know it all. We've only been in time but a moment. David said that when he went to try to measure or give us some scope of what eternity looked like, he said a day, 24 hours. Well, it was 12 hours in those days, but you know where I'm going. A day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. And what David is saying, in eternity, because there is no time, 1,000 years goes by in just a day. What does that mean to us? That means that there is so much we don't know. There is. When I study the Bible, and there are certain verses that have been taken out of the King James, and then you have all these different versions, and you have people who swear by their God that this version is the best version and that version. And then you have some people in this modern day society that, for instance, based on what I see, that Message Bible is dangerous. While it does make things a little bit more plain because they are communicating in modern day language, it's dangerous because there is no way that you can research those words. And some sentences are removed to give a better understanding for today's time. And that has happened for millions of years. I think it's dangerous. But you better rely on the relationship and who God has revealed himself to be to you. So what do you do when everything is falling apart? What do you do when your heart is hurting? What do you do when you don't know what to do? Well, what type of deposits have you been making before the tragedy hit? That's going to determine what you're able to withdraw when it's your day of suffering. And if you haven't suffered, tell you in the words of my grandmother, keep living, baby. You're either coming out of a storm, you're either in a storm, or you're headed towards a storm. But all of us will have storms in our life, and how you respond says what type of deposits you made. We handle things differently because of who we are. We handle things differently based on our understanding, based on our emotional component, based on our personality. But the substratum for how we face adversity is contingent on the deposit that we made when things were good. You know, many people, when stuff good, they ain't praying. They're definitely not seeking God. When things are good, we run on with our life, and many times disregarding the God that have blessed us to be in the place that we're in. We've allowed the information from society to infiltrate our faith to the point that we question where our soul has been anchored. And because we have all these questions now, there's reasonable doubt of your experience. Let me help y'all out. Don't you let nobody take your experience from you. When I listen to these, and I'm gonna say how, when I listen to some of these fools talk about church hurt, you're foolish to believe, first of all, that a man of any kind has all the pieces that are necessary to give you the God that they're believing in too. We've got to reposition ourselves, reposture ourselves. You can't have faith in the organization. The church is an organization. It's built. An organization should be a living organism. And people put more trust and faith in the organization. So when the organization fails, their faith fails. So when you get hurt or disappointed in the organization, you not only leave the organization, but you leave your relationship, your position, your posture with God. The danger in that is he is not the organization. The organization has been created by men, and that organizational structure reveals the conviction of the man, but you cannot associate the man and the organization necessarily with God. You can't. You put your trust in that man or that organization. When they fail, so will your faith. Your faith has to be planted and deeply rooted beyond human understanding, because if a human mind can understand this God, then they have the power to remove you from this God. I want you to think about that 1 second, all right? I want you to think about that. I'm going to play this song a little bit. I'm going to walk off, kind of pull myself together, and I'm going to come back because I want to finish this. There's something in it that I really want you to get out of it, okay? Don't go anywhere. Invite somebody and share.
I've had troubles disappointments. Friends have come and friends have gone, but you were always there for me. In my weakness, Lord, you were strong. I lost my brother, then my father. The enemy tried to take my daughter too. That's when your wings became a shield for me. Now my daughter has victory too. You were there. You were there to hold my head, Lord, when I was down. You never left me alone, Lord, you were there. You were there to see me through.
So in time, we're limited, and our understanding is measured or mirrored by the understanding of men who've been our life, information that we've been exposed to. Um, and when we look at church, many of us measure God by the system of the church and the man that runs the system. And they become interchangeable in our life. They become interchangeable in our life. So when we see God, we see the man that he used, the woman that he used. When we see God, we see the organization that he uses in some cases. And the danger is you cannot lump all three of those together. The organization is a component that is made up of many people. Why it's led generally by a man or a woman, the organization reflects their conviction, but not necessarily who they are. This is why you can go to some churches and the pastor is solid, but his wife nasty. The pastor's solid, but the people are nasty. You've got to divide who God is, who the organization is, and who the people are. Because many of us, the reason we are short in our faith is because we've lumped all these together. And the first thing that we'll say is, well, I don't go to church because of this, or I don't believe in God. Everybody, when you nail it down, when you narrow down why they say they don't believe in God or some portion of who God is or what he's established in the earth, when you talk to them and narrow it down, there's one common denominator. They went through a painful experience and made a decision because of the pain. Well, that is an unhealthy way to make decisions. You never make decisions when you're hurting. You especially don't make eternal decisions when you're hurting. What if you're wrong? You can't allow the impulse of your emotions to dictate something that is eternal and immaterial. And you can only understand God honestly through your heart, the soul, the leb, The part of you that really trusts God and knows God is not the part of you that can be seen. So you have to separate the man, the organization, and God himself. You have to make regular deposits on a day-to-day basis, regular deposits of faith, so that in the day of adversity, your faith is not questioned. There's a lot of stuff in that Bible I agree with. There's a lot of stuff I don't agree with. In my research, I've discovered some stuff that just blew my mind. And the Bible has been a premier source, guide, and foundation for me to follow. But when I understand the original language, not the part that King James interpreted, his interpretation in some areas conflicts the original language. And in studying the original language has altered my understanding as it relates to certain things. So I believe in the Bible. I believe it's God's word. But my faith exceeds that book. Because I met God and I didn't have the understanding of who he was. People think because you were raised in church that you have some kind of advantage. In fact, I would argue that it's a disadvantage being raised in church, because while God is promoted, it's promoted through the understanding or through the lens and scope of somebody else's understanding. So you get the part of God that's been filtered. You learn what someone else learned, and then they don't teach you necessarily how to learn, but they tell you you need to learn. I don't know how many times I've heard, you need to study, you need to pray more. Well, sir, I don't know how to study, and I really don't know how to pray. But there's some innate abilities that we overlook that God has given us that is automatically attached to our relationship with him. And prayer is one, talking to him. We have an innate ability to know some things. And I believe that when God reveals himself, there's a level of knowledge that is attached to his reveal, his unveiling, that should plant our faith, our heart. And when we feed that on a day-to-day basis, it grows. So in the day of adversity, I don't blame God. I do question him. And I know you all were taught, like I was taught, don't question God. But I find out you got to go to the answer to get the answer. And you can't get the answer unless you ask the question. Now, some things he will reveal, some things he will not. Deuteronomy, I think it's 17, says that the secret things belong to the Lord, and those things that have been revealed belong to us. What does that mean? That means some stuff he's going to tell you, some stuff he's not. When he doesn't speak, you can't assume. Got to leave it alone. I have questions about this faith. I even have questions about this God. I do. But I do not question my experience with him. When things happen, it puts you on an emotional roller coaster where you will forget everything that has been planted in you. But if you're going through your checks and balances correctly and making the daily deposits that are necessary, then when it's time for you to go through, you can make a withdrawal and your account not be depleted. Many of our accounts are depleted and we feel like giving up because we've not been making the right deposits. I think we rest in our ability too much. We rest in our understanding too much, and we don't give grace the credit that it should have. Even with all my studying even with all the knowledge that I've attained over my lifetime, even with all of the exposure that I've received to miracles and word and testimony and godly experiences, even with all that, if grace does not rest on my mind, I will not have the ability to understand those things that are connected to God. We should study, we should, but it's grace that connects the understanding to our heart and causes us to change. It's grace. So there's a arrogance that we have when we get knowledge. People that are extremely knowledgeable of things, for the most part, there's some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, there's an arrogance that they have as well. And there's a scripture in the Bible that talks about that. It says that knowledge puffs up. It also says that the letter killeth, but the spirit gives life. So above knowledge, I think we ought to seek for experience. And through experience, there comes an unlocking of understanding. And it's that understanding that causes our faith, that understanding through grace, that causes our faith to be rooted. So no matter what happens, no matter who comes, no matter what goes, I am standing. I'm standing on the solid rock. My hope is built. I never forget when my brother died. I didn't want to live anymore. I was done with y'all. Was through playing with y'all. And I was having one of my emotional moments. I was talking to two of my sisters and a friend of ours, a guy friend of ours, like a big brother. And I was telling them, during that time, hey, you know what? If I died today or tomorrow, I'm good. I've lived a full life. I just don't want to be here anymore. We have to be careful of the things we say, proclaim, do when we're hurting. Because in hurting, your heart is open. When your heart is open, ideas and suggestions can be planted through that hurting place that shakes the foundation of where your soul has been anchored. And you'll start to question all the things you've learned. You have to be careful with that. And I'm grateful to God for grace that covered me um, and gave me the will to want to live. And this morning, I want you all to make daily deposits. That's why listening to things that feed your heart, your spirit, your mind, things that help build your faith, that help you believe, things that make you want to get to know this unknown God, things that causes your heart to want or allow him to reveal himself even the more to you. Those things should be done on a day-to-day basis. They should. You know, it's you don't wait till a house burns down to try and get fire insurance. I think it's too late. So don't wait until the unexpected trouble, adversity, death, disappointments. Don't wait till that stuff happen to try and make the deposits that you should have been making every day. No matter the climate of your life, you have a responsibility to feed what you believe. And in the day of adversity, when all hell breaks loose, there will be emotional moments, but they're just moments. There are going to be questions, but they're just questions. But when it seems as if life has turned on you and given you the downside, grace will couple your faith and you will be surprised at what you can handle. Crying doesn't mean you don't have faith. Wanting to give up doesn't mean you don't have faith. In fact, when you have faith and you want to give up, that is a testimony that you have it. Because if you didn't have it, you wouldn't want to give up. Uh, when you cry, that doesn't mean your faith is weak, and it doesn't mean you don't have faith. Crying means you're human. Being disappointed means you're human. When you have questions, that means you're human. But it also proves that your faith is still there. Because if faith wasn't there, you wouldn't have anything to be thinking about giving up on. So this morning, don't allow what the world is saying and what society is dispersing to pollute your experience with God that you know is real. Feed that experience with knowledge, feed it with understanding. There are some credible teachers out here that can help take you further in your faith. I listen personally to Miles Monroe. That's my guy. I am a Miles Monroe fan. Um, Here lately, I've been listening to teachings by my first pastor who died in 1985. I found the teachings. I have some. Been listening to those foundational things that helped feed me when I came into faith. And then I listen to different voices that I trust. You know, there's a residence and a confirmation in our hearts when we hear something. We may not be even able to understand exactly what's being articulated, but it's something peace or at peace in our heart that is attracted to what's being said. Well, that's the God in you agreeing with the God in the person. And then there are people that I hear and I understand clearly what they're saying, but it doesn't rest in here. So I don't condemn them or talk bad about them. I just don't listen to them. It says to me, if my heart doesn't agree, I don't need to be listening to you. So you got to make daily deposits of hope. You've got to make daily deposits of faith. And in the day of adversity, when you believe you've done all you can, grace has a way of showing up in someone, through you, through understanding to give you the strength to make it just one more day. We're not required to believe for tomorrow. You can only have faith for today. You can only have faith for the moment. We don't know what tomorrow holds, but we do have faith in the one who holds tomorrow. So, um, you know, take these things, uh, and allow them to take root in you. Don't you let nobody try and convince you of your experience. I had a brother who I respect in terms of his knowledge question. He was trying to question how I believe. I listened to him when he got through talking. I say, hey, all that stuff that you're saying and all your history that you're quoting, hey, good for you. That's how you believe. Bless you. I'm not going to argue with you about what I believe. What I believe is personal. It's between God and I. There's no seat for you at the altar of my belief cistern, the cistern of my. There's no seat for you there. You leave that alone. It's between God and I. I don't believe times are going to get better. I don't believe that. I believe it's going to get worse. I believe the things that we are experiencing, it's a sign of the time. I believe prophecy is being fulfilled, and I believe it's going to get even worse. In fact, one scripture warns us that, hey, when you hear people dying, wars, rumors of wars, nation rise against nation, know that the end is not yet. And then it tells us that this is the beginning. It's the beginning of sorrow, and I believe we're at the beginning of sorrow. Uh, we can start with the clown that's in the White House. We can start with the clowns that are in Congress. Local government is polluted. State government is polluted. National government is polluted. People are losing their mind. They're losing heart. They become truth breakers. People become lovers of themselves instead of lovers of God. People are more prone to believe and attach their belief to what's popular instead of what's right. We're not to condemn them people. That's between them and their God. What we are to do is focus. We are to focus, and we are to take heart to what we believe, our experiences, pray for the others. But man, you're going to be held accountable for you. I do believe that there will be a day of judgment. I believe that. I do believe that there is a real hell in some form. To the degree of that form of hell, there's some questions that I have in regards to it. But I believe that there is eternal separation from God. Anywhere without God is hell. You can have hell right here on earth if God is not in or involved. And when I say God, I'm talking about Yahweh, Yeshua the Messiah. Um, but He's real, and your experience says are just confirmation of how real He is. Do not get caught up in what's popular, because fads change, fashions go out of style. A few years ago, all men we were wearing bell bottom pants. It was fat at the bottom of our pants. Now it's almost as if brothers are putting on leggings. It's so tight their ankles can't breathe. Fashions change, trends change. Don't be trendy in what you believe. No, add to what you know. Knowledge. Add to what you know. Grow in what you believe. Don't allow society to taint your faith and your grace. You know what God's done for you. You know there's some stuff you shouldn't have gotten out of. You know when your life was on the line and you prayed, God, get me out of this. I never do it again. And you got into something else and He got you out of that too. You know the experiences. You're well aware. Don't let anybody question that. Grow in that. All right. You all have a great day. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Thanks for tuning in on last night. I can't talk about last night enough. I enjoyed last night. I received a lot from Angel L. I think she did a wonderful job. Make sure you guys follow her. Make sure you go to her website. If you're unsure what I'm talking about, just go back and listen to last night's video. You can find it on Facebook as well as YouTube and Periscope. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Without your ear, I don't have a voice. You make this possible. You all have a great day today. You were born to win, predestined to succeed. There's nothing that can happen to you today that the wisdom on the inside is not able to handle. But in order for wisdom to speak, you've got to calm down, stay calm, be quiet, use emotional intelligence, trust God, and let wisdom speak on your behalf. When wisdom speaks, you'll always win. You all have a great day. Continue to pray for me and my family as I pray for you all. All right? Go be productive and always remember to think higher, speak life. Peace out.